maybe it's afternoon, just whenever you find this. Coming hot off the heels of talking about white dragons last week, we felt like we should keep this draconic train running over here at Game Master's Arsenal, and we thought we'd continue that by covering one of their metallic brothers, the Copper Dragon. Of course, as always, we're going to be covering some of their lore, a bit about what metallic dragons do, and of course, how they fight in combat for our game masters. And maybe it'll give you an edge as your game master throws one of them at you, no matter what level you are. Now, before we get started, I got to talk about another thing. For the first time, Game Master's Arsenal is doing a giveaway. We've got ourselves a beautiful 3D printed Copper Dragon mini for you guys. Got him fresh right here. He's hanging out with me. I want to give it away to one of our viewers. And of course, to get this, all you got to do is watch the video. That's always the first thing. Find out about it. Leave us a like and, of course, comment. Tell me about what breath attack you're most scared of as a player for one of those coming up against one of these dragons. Now, that's all that we got to say about that so far, but we'll talk about him later. He's a cute little guy. I'm just going to show him off. I like showing him off for the camera. I'm very proud. It's got that wingspan of the Copper Dragon, a beautiful little mini, and I got a base for you. When we can choose whenever you guys want. Okay, Discord, that's it. Me and you are having problems. No, Discord is not shutting up. Shut up, Discord. Shut up. And it's in the middle of the stream, too. Oh, man, this podcast is going off the rails already. How do I just mute this server? Mute server. Here we are. I don't want to mute it for everybody. Yeah, actually I do want to mute it. Okay, Discord is no longer yelling at me. That's okay. Now that Discord's not yelling at us, we can get back into our Copper Dragons. We were going to get into them and talk about them, but we got distracted. Yeah, of course, leave that comment, leave that like, and let us know some of your experiences with this Copper Dragon. Of course, I'm your Game Master, Isaiah, and this is Game Master's Arsenal. Now, you might be scared of Copper Dragons. There's a reason. A lot of players have fear of dragons. When dragons show up in the skies, it's usually a sign that something bad is about to happen. Either it's going to attack, either it's going to land and execute everybody, or you're going to have a breakout fight. Now, that is common case for a lot of dragons, but you have to remember with a Copper Dragon, Copper Dragons are metallic dragons. They're not like their chromatic brothers. Their chromatic brothers are less... I want to say less intelligent, but I know that's not the right term. I'm going off on here because, recorded as live. Copper Dragons are less greedy, for one. More willing to work with people. They are the good dragons. Copper dragons and metallic dragons as a whole are your good dragons. Now they share some common personality traits as you're kind of building your NPCs, and unlike some of the other dragons we've covered, like the white dragon, you do have to treat your dragon like an NPC. Copper dragons will talk to people. They will deal. They will make fun of. Copper dragons are known as tricksters in their personalities. But you've got to understand a lot of copper dragons share some personality traits because they are metallic dragons. Now, metallic dragons as a whole, doesn't have to be everyone, they have a noble curiosity to them. Metallic dragons love treasure, but it's not greed. They want to investigate and collect. They don't just take from people. They like unclaimed relics, and they like storing them in the layers. It's usually filled with items that reflect its personality, unlike their metallic dragons that just collect whatever they can for because they want it. These guys collect stuff on their personalities. They sometimes make these are less like piles of hoards. Sometimes they're curated collections. They tell its history, preserve its memories. These guys are so old. Some of these guys are so old they might forget things. However, they're not willing to let it go easily. Now, unlike their chromatic brothers, they can be persuaded to part things from their treasure for the greater good. They are good aligned dragons. Because they are good aligned, they will do things for the greater good, and that's kind of helpful for people. Now, another thing that they do that the chromatic brothers don't really do too much is they shapeshift. They shapeshift. Yeah. They like to take humanoid forms and interact with the world. You might find some of their a gold dragon walking through the city as a beggar. You might see a bard playing at it, realizing, oh, that's a copper dragon playing some of the songs he learned as a kid. Those are hundreds of years old. Or in the most popular case of a shape-shifting dragon, you have Bahamut, their essential god, the creator of metallic dragons. He likes to take on the form of a beggar or a monk and walk around with 7 canaries. A lot of our D&D brothers know of Master Flowers. Master Flowers, who walks around with 7 canaries, who are actually ancient gold dragons. But yeah, they like to shapeshift. They like to walk around. They also have a persistence of memory. They know things from a long time ago, and they can recognize bloodlines by smell. They might smell them now. Go, I recognize you. Where are you from? Oh, you're from that family. I knew them. Or they might see you, smell you, and go, wait a second. You stole from me. And of course, you're like 30 years old, and this guy's... I'm going to put the copper dragon over here. I'm going to put the dragon over here. Actually, no, I'm going to put him over here. There we go. I'm going to put him over there so I don't accidentally knock him off the table when I start talking with my hands. But they might recognize, like, somebody's distant family stole from them. A great paladin took a blade from its hoard without permission. Now it's like, your family stole from me. You know that, right? Now, copper dragons, first and foremost, their personality is very much of the trickster. They're pranksters, joke tellers, riddlers. They live in hills and kind of the upper uplands area. They're covetous and have a miserly streak, so they might not want to spend a lot of money. They might want an item from a family and might trick people. And they are one of the few metallic dragons that get very dangerous when you're by its hoard, because it is protective of its hoard. Now, the description of a copper dragon, I'm just going to read it out because it's a good description. Now, a copper dragon has brow plates jutting over its eyes, extending back to long horns that grow as a series of overlapping segments. Its back-swept cheek ridges and jaw frills give it a pensive look. At birth, a copper dragon's scales are a ruddy brown with a metallic tint. As the dragon ages, its scales become more coppery in color, later taking on a green tint as it ages. Jake mentioned this when I talked to him. As copper dragons age, because it is metal, they oxidize. They don't rust, they oxidize. So that's kind of where it gets the green, as the copper oxidizes. Now, some other personalities you got to understand. Pranksters, joke tellers, riddlers. What does that sound like? It's like a bard. Bards. And because of that, they love bards. Copper dragons love bards. And it loves a good story, a humorous joke. And it really doesn't like it when other people don't laugh at its jokes. And so that's some personality traits you can kick into your dragon, because it's like, there's so many things you can do, but it's like simple personality traits. It's like, oh, you didn't laugh at my joke. How rude are you? And then, or accept its tricks with good humor. And some of its tricks may not seem like things that people would take in good humor, but they're expected. Hey, I'm just playing it's just a prank, bro. But also you have to understand they may be these tricksters and fond of jokes, but they are good hosts. So as long as you are a good guest, a copper dragon will like to have you around. Sometimes they carve out parts of its lair for bards to stay in and regale them with stories, and they love the companionship. They're cautious and crafty. A lot of times they like things from the earth, precious stones, metal ores, that kind of thing. And if they take something, they do not show it off. This is not one of the dragons that creates a curated library of artifacts. No. They keep them hidden away. He doesn't show it off. If somebody comes up to a dragon and says, we need this for this, we need this item, they might just say, well, do this for me and I'll get it, and send them on a wild goose chase. It will never admit that it has the item unless it has to. If it's a world-ending threat, maybe after a couple pranks on the people, it'll admit, okay, I got the item. What do you need it for? And that's the thing. Copper dragons are one of those creatures where it's like, yeah, they do a lot. There's a lot to their personality, and you build your copper dragon. I'm actually going to take our little copper dragon off of there. Our picture of our mini off of there. Yeah, so they do that. And it's like, okay, that's a lot of fun. That can be a lot of fun. And maybe it becomes a better prankster as it gets older. Maybe the younger dragon, if you're dealing with a younger dragon's pranks are more mean-spirited. Maybe it's very much trying to figure out, okay, what's a funny joke versus what's taking it too far. And as it gets older and into an ancient line, it's like, okay, this is a good prank. I've been doing this one for centuries, and people have been falling for it for centuries. It's hilarious. And so it's like, okay, be aware of that. Be aware of those character aspects you want to take in, but from there you build your dragon out from that. Have them mischievous, have them fun. I like copper dragons fun, and I think the players will enjoy them more because it can be a fun little thing, especially if it turns into a fight. Because the fun-loving dragon in a fight can be very brutal. It can be cracking jokes at the people's expense, that kind of thing. We'll talk about combat in just a little bit. For now, we're still on our whole copper dragon run. Now, copper dragons, in your kind of stories, you got to understand, this is not going to be just a monster they hunt. Now, it could start out, the quest could easily start out as a monster they hunt. And we're going to start with some story hooks for the dragons, because story hooks are fun. And it can give you ideas to run with. Now, one of the adventure hooks, of course, could just be a bargain. Maybe the dragons hires the party to play at a festival. They got a great bard in them. He's heard stories about this great bard and wants to play in this festival. And of course, the dragon has an ulterior motive. Maybe he's like, okay, one of my jokes that I'm going to play here is the least entertaining. I'm going to curse. And it's going to be a dumb curse. It's not going to be like a dangerous curse. It's going to be like you can never get this one string on your mandolin in tune. That kind of thing. Funny little things, not major. They're not out here cursing people like you will never see your loved ones. No, it's like, can't get your mandolin in tune. May you stub your toe every day. Little jokes. And it's like, okay. And that's the thing. The party might come out with something great, and you can create this little festival, let the bard shine, let the players get creative with their spellcraft, that kind of thing. Of course, another little story hook is something stolen from the copper dragon. A statue, maybe, or a specific gemstone that it loves was stolen from its hoard. So it hires the party to go and track them down, whether it approaches them as a copper dragon or somebody who just needs help. That's up to you. And of course, it wants to tag along. It's like, I'm an ancient dragon, I can do this. And it tags, or I'm an adult dragon, I want to do this. And it tags along, playing jokes on the party, getting escalatingly more disruptive to the party. Fun little thing, of course. A village that's being tormented by this thing could also seek the party for help. However, to get to it, maybe the dragon has a labyrinth of puzzles, riddles, and word Wordplay. See, that's what I'm talking about with these kind of dragons, is there's so much you can play with them because they're active NPCs. My favorite copper dragon I am going to talk about real quick. Oh, no, she's a brass dragon. Sorry, my bad. Please don't curse me, copper dragons. I did not do anything to you. I was thinking it, but I'm like, no, wait, my character in my campaign's a brass dragon. But it's fun. Of course, they make disguises. They're very easy to integrate in a story because of the shape-shifting. And it's fun when the players find out that, oh, that's a copper dragon? Oh, that's so cool. We've been dealing with a copper dragon this whole time. Don't make it obvious. Give hints that this thing may not be exactly humanoid. Maybe it swipes at food every once in a while thinking it's a lot bigger. Maybe it sticks its head up when it eats. They're like little things that normal people would be like, that's kind of weird. But people that know dragons are like, oh, crap. We're dealing with a dragon here. And of course, taverns would be like, that's a dragon. Why is it here? Let's make everything good. Now, good for it. Now, we got to talk about combat. This is where we get into the bulk of what we're dealing with here, because we got to talk about how they deal in combat. Now, combat with a copper dragon is going to be very different. Other combats that you come up into are very different, and fighting it in its lair is an entirely different animal. We will not be talking combat as if fighting in its lair, because when it's fighting in its lair, it'll be creating illusions. It'll be making slippery edges. There's so much that it has control of inside of its lair that it's like, okay, this is a whole lot more difficult creature and a whole lot other fight than fighting a copper dragon out in the open. So for talking about copper dragon fights, a lot of them will be out in the open. People don't want to fight dragons in caves. They're going to kite them out because a dragon in a cave is very dangerous, because not only are you dealing with its lair, but you are also dealing with confined spaces. And confined spaces give the dragon a huge advantage because it has AoE attacks. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is, just like with the white dragon, all the dragons we've talked before, the dragons gets increasingly more abilities. So everything I say for the wormling applies to the rest. Now, let's talk about the wormling. 15 strength, 12 dex, 13 con, 14 intelligence, 11 wisdom, 13 charisma. I just threw a bunch of numbers at you. This is very average. It's on the higher end of average. It's a strong beast. But it's also smart. Now, when I'm talking wormlings are only wormlings for about 5 years, at which point up to 100 years, they're young dragons. Up to 800 years, they're adult dragons. Up to after 800 years, they're ancient. Now, copper dragons. A wormling is not hard to kill. It is only challenge rating 1. But if your party is fighting a copper dragon wormling, something has gone evil in your campaign. Something has gone evil in your campaign. Because you're fighting a kid. Worse than that, you're fighting a copper dragon's kid. And copper dragons are good creatures, which means it's not abandoned, which means mama's around there somewhere. And if you want to talk about a ticked off trickster, you kill the wormling. So my first recommendation for any party is fighting a wormling, don't kill the thing. It's going to be way more trouble for you. Because one, that wormling, its parent will remember you. It'll smell the blood and it'll hunt you down. I have no doubt that a copper dragon would hunt you down after getting taken out. Now, average stats, this thing is going to be easy to kill. It's CR1, which means a party of 4 at CR1 could fight this thing. This would be very dangerous, though, to fight it at level 1. I still don't recommend throwing this at level 1. It could end in a TPK very easily. Be careful of that. Dex saves, skills, immunities to acid, of course. All of these dragons have immunity to its own breath attack. It has a bite attack, 1d10 plus 2 piercing. This is why I said this could become a TPK very quick, because it deals a lot of damage. 1d10 plus 2 is 12. That is, at level 1, A player at max, strongest would have 17 hit points. Which means this thing can take somebody out in 2 turns. And that's not even getting into the Wormling's biggest defense mechanism, because a Wormling's not going to run. Actually, a Wormling would try to run, but it's not going to be able to run very fast. So as soon as the party catches it, it's going to churn, and it's going to breath attack. It's not going to slow breath them. Often the slow breath will be as a way of it as it tries to get away. It will try to acid breath them, which is a 20-foot line, 5 feet. So it's going to get a point where it can hit just about everybody with its line, and then it's going to hit them with this acid breath. And that is 4d8 damage. At max, that is 32 damage at level 1. 18 average. On average, a failed save means they die. Think about that. A failed save means the character dies. Let's not even talk about the fact that the person could be a wizard, and the wizard is just dead anyway. Like I said, a fight with a copper dragon at level 1 goes bad very quickly. Because one, they got to chew through 16 armor class, which is not the easiest thing to do. 22 hit points. Chewing through that at level 1, full party could do it in 1 round. If this thing gets good initiative, it breath attacks, it kills them all. Or puts a couple of them down, and now the fight has taken another turn. God forbid you roll on its recharge and it recharges its breath attack immediately. So I'd say as far as young Copper Dragon strategies, it's just going to try to run to the fight. It's going to try to find its parent, or it's going to try to find our next little friend here, its bigger brother, which is a young Copper Dragon. Now, young Copper Dragons could be out on their own. You could be fighting them out in the open. Young dragons could also be guarding their homes. Now, like the Wormling, it has similar stats. It's just beefed up a little bit. 19 strength, 12 dex, 17 con, 16 intelligence, 13 wisdom, 15 charisma. This is now a smart creature. It also has 5 years of experience, whether that's battle experience. Honestly, that's kind of up to you as a DM. But it has enough experience, and it learned the language Common, which means if a party comes into a dragon's lair, a dragon's nest, and finds a young dragon guarding a nest of its brothers and sisters, they could talk it out. I highly encourage parties to talk it out with the dragon. Don't be afraid to try to talk it out. He might be willing to. This is another thing where it's like, okay, now this thing is CR7. Great. Those are pretty decent stats for CR7. It has 119 health, 17 armor, not the highest armor class. Decent hit points, but a party of 7 could probably bring him down in a couple turns. Well-built parties could bring this thing down pretty easily. That's why it would talk. Now, its strategy, of course, first things first, it gets out of the cave. If in a fight, a young Copper Dragon leaves its cave, that is because it has it has an advantage in a cave, but if it's up against a party who it knows can kill it, it's going to flee or talk it out. Now, it has 3 attacks, dealing 2d10 plus 4 piercing with its bite. With its claws, it gains the claw attack. Plus 7 to hit, 2d6 plus 4, and it gets to either do 1 with its bite or 2 with its claws. Then it has a breath attack. Now it has an acid breath, just like the young one. They've all got acid breaths. They've also got the slowing breath, and I'm going to talk about the slowing breath here because this is where the slowing breath starts to matter strategically for you. Acid breath, 40-foot line attack, 5 feet wide, 14 dex save, or 98 damage. 40 damage on average. Maximum of 72 damage. That's a lot of damage to be hitting a level 7 with. But it can, like I said, dragons are extremely dangerous. When you're fighting one of these guys, it is not going to be an easy fight at all. And because it's not going to be an easy fight, you've got to recognize that. You've got to hit them. You've got to hit them hard. You've got to hit them fast. because if this thing gets a chance to respond with that breath attack, you're toast. If it starts the fight at range, you're toast, because what's going to happen is it's going to hit you with the slow breath. Opening move, out in the open, first thing it does, slow breath. 30-foot cone. Each creature, DC 14 Constitution saving throw. All players lose reaction, their speed is halved, and they can't make more than one attack on its turn. Then it can use an action or bonus action, but not both. It's going to slow attack, slow those marshals down, make the spellcasters choose how they cast their spells. Are they going to try to bonus action support? Are they going to try to actually get some damage on this thing? Great. Now there's another aspect you can bring in. Young dragons are when you can start getting your spellcasters, and dragons are spellcasters as well. I recommend having your dragons be spellcasters. That's because there's a lot they can do. Minor illusion, major illusion. And the Copper Dragon would use this in its ability to cause tricks. Now, a dragon would start preparing for the fight beforehand. If it knows the fight is coming, which it probably does. Dragons often know when they're in trouble. Illusions, non-lethal traps to disorient the party before they come in. Maybe it creates illusions of itself, so they never know which one's the real one until the fight actually starts. Open with the slow attack. Hit him with hit and run tactics. He's not the fastest. We'll get into the hit and run tactics. A young dragon might stand its ground for a little bit. Of course, it'll also taunt the enemies. Oh, you call that a spell? Let me show you a spell. Oh, ow. Did you just hit me with that toothpick? Smack. Yeah, there's so much it can do here. And it's going to try to confuse. It's going to taunt. It's going to play a game. And then as the fight gets progressively worse for it, maybe it starts trying to make deals. Maybe it tries to talk its way out. There's so much you can do with this thing because it's an actual character. Fights with Copper Dragons and metallic dragons are fun, but like I said, if you're fighting a bunch of these dragons, you've got a problem, especially if you're coming up against one of the bigger versions of it, such as the adult Copper Dragon. Now, this is the dragon that's iconic. This is the dragon you would see adventurers fight. This is the dragon you would throw at your party. CR 14, guys. It's a huge creature, 18 armor class, 184 hit points. Kind of low for a dragon if you think about it. But it can have spellcasting to back it up. It also gains legendary resistances. At this point, its strength is above 20. So is its con. Its intelligence are up there. Its charisma is getting up. Its intelligence is getting up there as well. This is now a very intelligent enemy. When you're fighting an intelligent enemy, you got to be aware that you're fighting an intelligent enemy. And as a DM, you have to be prepared to run this thing smart. Play smart. Because a party of level 14s would thrash this thing. The rules of the game are out the window. That's the thing. At this point, the rules of the game are out the window. Balance starts to break down in 5e after 12. Be aware of that. Balance starts to break down after 12, which means you're going to be thrashing the party if you can get in there. But they will thrash you if you make a mistake because, again, balances suck. And CR12 is when things start to break down. That's when you get the really strong spells. That's where you get the weird stuff that causes a lot of problems. Secondly, it also gains let's talk about its attacks. At this point, it gains its Frightful Presence. Okay, it immediately uses its Frightful Presence, which is Wisdom saving throw or frighten everyone. That's good. With a DC 16, that's a decent save to make. It's not the hardest thing to make. It's also not the easiest thing to make. DC 16, somebody who's at this point, yeah, it's pretty easy to make, actually. You probably have a plus 8 or 9 to it. So a lot of people are not failing to this Frightful Presence. It has a bite attack. Again, this just scales up from the other versions. Bite attack. Okay, claw attack. Ooh, now it has a tail attack. 2d8 plus 6, and you kind of get to pick on which one you need. Are the players just out of reach of it? 15 feet. Okay, we're going to tail attack. we're going to do tail attack. Then we're going to claw attack and bite attack. It gets 3 attacks. And you kind of get a pick how it goes. Then you have its breath weapon. The breath weapon is crucial here. On a recharge 5 to 6. First breath weapon is its slow attack. Same thing as it had before. Halves the players lose reactions. Only bonus action, can only attack once. DC 18 con save. Yeah, no, this neuters your like fighter combos. If it opens with this and hopes the marshals fail. Because if the marshals fail this con save, they can't multi-attack. And if they can't multi-attack and they can't bonus action, what are they going to do on their action? Attack. That's it. That's it for them. They're going to attack. Which is good for you when you're running this beast. Because when you're running this beast, that's all you need is that single attack. Now, in a fight, this thing comes down, slow breaths, keeps its distance, keeps just out of reach of them, figures out where they can move as they break out. It hits them, slows, breath attacks, starts hitting them. This thing is going to be, this is where the hit and run tactics go. Look at that movement speed. 80 feet of flying speed. This thing is swooping in. It's swooping in 40 feet, getting out 40 feet. Swooping in 40 feet, getting out 40 feet. Marshals will never touch it. And it doesn't need to. What it's trying to do is trying to make sure its breath attack's online. Again, it's smart. It can feel when its breath attack is offline versus online. It's not going to go and trying to breath attack and realizing it can't. It's going to swoop in. It's going to breath attack. It's going to move. It's going to wait for its breath attack to charge, and then it's going to go in again. Party's going to have to close the gap with this thing. The other thing it's going to have to deal with are spellcasters. Give it some combat spells. That'll help it. Minor illusion, mirror image. It's a trickster. Let it play with illusions. At this point, it's going to be it's a CR14. It's a spellcaster. It's a hard-hitting spellcaster. And then, of course, it's legendary actions. Legendary actions will be used if the players get in range. How I like its legendary actions to use is it is using its legendary actions to get distance. If the party closes the gap, if they dash in, if the slow breath doesn't take effect, they dash in. And now they're in it, but they can't attack. Well, the dragon is just going to tail attack it, wing attack it, get them off of it, and fly away. That's how it's going to fight. It keeps its distance. That is the strategy of these dragons. Keep your distance. Hit them. Hit, get out. Hit, get out. If it's cornered in its lair, it's a different story. These is another smart creature, which means you can use smart tactics. Behold the strategy of kill the cleric first. Kill the cleric first. Oh, can't hit the marshal? Grab him, pop him up into the air about 50 feet. Again, this guy is a huge thing, which means he is not slowed by medium creatures if he grapples them. If he hits with his tail attack, he can choose to grapple them instead of dealing damage. Great. He grapples, pops 80 feet in the air, and drops him. Simple strategy to deal with marshals. Your armor class can't save you against the ground. I've done this a few times against my marshals where I'm like, oh, this creature's smart enough to crack you like a nut. I'm going to use the bird method. I'm going to fly you up 80 feet and drop you. 8d10. Breath attack, grab, fly. Again, it has methods for dealing with this kind of thing. And you can use those strategies, those basic strategies. If the fighter's too tough to get through, if he has a 23 armor class, and you're just not chewing through it with that plus 11 to hit. Plus 11 to hit. It's still missing. If you can't chew through their armor class, you're going to pop the cleric 80 feet in the air. You're going to pop the fighter for 80 feet in the air. You're going to pop them up, and you're going to drop them. Rules as written. They just take the damage. You can play it out that they're falling. Give the player a chance. Maybe a lot of dragons like these fight in hills and kind of cliffy areas, which means pop them off the cliff. There are so many options strategically with these, and you need to play those out. Don't just fight them. Now, the other thing. The other one we need to talk about, the one you probably won't face, but is the dream of any DM, is this bad boy. This is the coup de grace. This is CR21. This is your ancient copper dragon. This is the thing that players deal with when they're mid-level. This is the thing making deals with them. This is their fear in the night. This is the creature that plays so many pranks. It's borderline worshipped. 27 strength plus 8. 12 dex. Yeah, it's bulky. It's not the fastest thing. 25 con, 20 intelligence, 17, 19 wisdom and charisma. Dex save. Dex, con, wisdom, charisma, 14 to its saving throws for constitution, 10 for its wisdom saving throws. You're not coming back from this thing. Fighting one of these things is an epic encounter. But honestly, if you're fighting an ancient dragon, either it's gone evil or something has gone wrong with your good campaign, or your guys are evil. That's fine. It's a good dragon. It's just playing tricks. If they have to dispose of an ancient dragon for any reason, even if it's for the greater good, you're like, maybe you start questioning the morality of your party. Maybe pose that to them, because killing an ancient dragon always has connotations, rippling effects. These are the dragons that rule kingdoms. I don't think the copper dragon would rule kingdoms, but this is the level of dragons that rule nations. Now it knows common draconic, immune to acid, blind sight, dark vision. Yeah, it's scaled up. Now here's what's the difference that it gets. It gains change shape. Yep, it gets change shape. It gets wild shape. Which means it can hide very easily. Yeah, it can try to hide from you very easily. Maybe when it's on the ropes, it backs off and turns into a spider, crawls under a rock, waits for the party to leave. Got to be able to deal with that polymorph. And as a DM, please utilize that polymorph. Move it back. Use it to retreat. You use it to scare. They enter and see this man sitting on the floor or playing a game, and suddenly it starts to crack as its true form is revealed and it flares out. Make them immediately all save for frightful presence. Creates this moment where they realize what they're up against. And that's the big thing. Dragons, you want to create this moment for them. Dragons are big creatures in story. They're scary. They're terrifying. Your players will remember the day they took on an ancient dragon. They will remember the day they fought a copper dragon. My players still talk of the time they walked into the green dragon's lair and slew it. The time when the fighter struck down a red dragon from the air. My players remember these things. These are your memorable encounters. Your party will never forget them fighting their first dragon. Now let's talk about what it can actually do. Legendary resistance, yep. Okay, it doesn't gain any new attacks, doesn't gain any new frightful presence, doesn't gain any new breath weapons. They're all just scaled up in DC and in damage. That's great. If you feel like that's not enough damage, scale it up even more. Change shape, legendary. Nothing really changes. It's just scaled up. Now, it's level 21. This means it's if you choose to go with the Draconic Spellcaster. Oh boy, it's got 9th levels. It's a 9th level spellcaster. I recommend taking it from the Bard list. I recommend taking its spells. Oh, my camera just went out of focus. I recommend taking its spells from the Bard list. I highly recommend that. Make it a Bard. Give it the spells that you want. Minor illusion, that kind of thing. Major illusion, some summoning stuff, invisibility, true invisibility. Make this thing a terrifying thing in the field. Give the spellcaster something to worry about. Give the marshals, again, same strategies. It's going to hit with the slowing breath. It's going to hit with the breath attack. It's going to try to keep its distance. Its flying speed hasn't changed. It's still 80 feet. Its strategy has not changed. It is just more refined. Refine your spellcaster. That's all I got to say. Refine your strategies. It knows what it's doing at this point. It's done these for centuries. It's attacked like this for centuries. If the party is causing too much damage to it, it might flee. It's going to try to get 300 feet away. It's trying to get so far away that they can't touch it. It's a spellcaster. Maybe it just teleports out. Players have to be ready to deal with these. And when you're dealing with ancient dragons, they're tricky. They're way tricky. And play it as that trickster. Play it as, okay, you might be fighting me, but what happens when I make the ground lava? What happens when I make the rocks fall off the cliff? What happens when I summon a horde of elephants to charge through? What happens when I start bringing out the forest? See what I mean? That it's still a trickster. Fight it as that. It's having fun half the time when it's fighting. Let it fight and have fun. Now, this is kind of I'm going to get into my final thoughts here. Now, I love copper dragons. Metallic dragons are by far my favorite. Aside from like a handful of the gemstone. Not handful, sorry. Like 2 of the gemstone. I really like moonstone. I really like I like moonstone dragons, and I like emerald dragons. Now, good thing about these dragons is they are complete wild cards. As tricksters, they enrich your campaign by being allies, enemies, or anywhere in between. They're in it for a good joke. They're in it for the fun. Of course, before we get going, because we are wrapping up here, again, we are giving away that beautiful copper dragon. And if there are so many of you that I cannot determine a single winner, or I feel like I don't want to determine a single winner, we will make more. It doesn't have to be just one. The more of you guys that join into this little giveaway, the more we'll give away. Please, of course, just like that. Let me know what you like the video. So hit the follow wherever you're at, or the subscribe on YouTube, or whatever it is. So many things. TikTok, get bent. You're probably gonna get banned next week. So there's that. I'm sorry. I don't know why I don't like TikTok. I really have a thing against TikTok. But that's a conversation for another day. Maybe when we're building the Copper Dragon later. Copper Dragon layer a little bit later. We'll probably be doing that on Saturday. Hit that like. Tell me what you like about the Copper Dragon. Tell me and let me know what you would like me to cover. Let me know what kind of monsters you want to see us talk about here. That's everything I have to talk about here. I'm going to leave it with one of the jokes made by a Copper Dragon here. What's a Copper Dragon's favorite spell? Punishment. Bad jokes are the dad jokes. Use dad jokes. They're great with Copper Dragons. Of course, I'm your game master, Isaiah.